G'day everyone, welcome to a brand new week of our little show called Ttr US Session. It's the 25th of March 2019. My name's Jeff and I'm coming to you live from Tasmania, Australia. And I'm not sure I'm going to be joined by Ash today. I think he's flying back to the UK from Singapore. I'm not sure if that was today or tomorrow, but it may well be today. And therefore I could be flying solo, and that's fine. We'll see what we can come up with throughout the session. Of course, first up, as always on a Monday, I want to take a look at what the week is likely to deliver and see if I can formulate a bias or two and look to trade. First up, on the Forex Factory, I like to go back and have a look at last week just to remind myself of what took place. And really what I see that took place last week was an interesting one. Certainly a volatile week, and it could have been absolutely enormous from my point of view. Trading wise, I missed a couple of entries, and very second that was the case, but it happens. We found some good ones, and unfortunately on Thursday our transmission was cut short, and I know it sounds crazy, but I did forecast a couple of good trades for Friday, which actually came off, and we placed those as well, and still holding euro dollar short and Aussie dollar short. And we'll go through those in a minute. But really, the news I think of the week, and it was always going to be the case, that the pound was very much under the microscope, and interestingly enough, there was very good news all the week delivered through on the pound. Average earnings was great, so wages were up, unemployment was down, awesome. What else happened? We had retail sales were good. I'm talking about the pound. If you just joined us, guys, no change in the official bank rate, of course, but it generally was good news across the board for the pound. Yet, if you go back and have a look at the charts, I think it was all downhill until Friday, and this was very much the case of trading last week, in my opinion. If you were prepared to wait and take a position late in the week, Thursday, Friday, turned out to be crackers for me in particular, and obviously I translate that into trading generally. I guess that's not always the case, of course. So that was pretty much the week that was. If you have a look at the euro didn't have good news on the manufacturing front. That was really the butt of it. The economic summit, if it actually took place, didn't deliver anything, but cancellation, as it were, on the vote. The vote on phase 3 of Ms. May's deal with the eurozone, that I believe is now going to take place on Friday of this week. I'm sure Ash will catch us up with that. As I say, he's not in today. I don't think he's flying, but he'll be in tomorrow, and we'll catch up with all of that when he joins us again. So, in summary, last week, it was always going to be about the pound, and it was, and eventually that good news filtered through on Friday when it did rally off a very decent retracement on the bull run it's been enjoying for the past few weeks. So we'll have a look at that in just a tick. This week, what have we got? Well, it calms down dramatically from a very volatile week to a week that is littered with orange news, but not so much red news. We've got RBNZ interest rates coming out on Wednesday morning for most of us. We've got final GDP figures coming out in the States, GDP figures in Canada, but really around that little set of numbers, there's really not, and final GDP in the States, there's not a whole lot happening this week. So I'm not anticipating a whole lot of dramatic movement, and I will be looking for maybe consolidation of current trends and perhaps a little bit of little bit of trend trading might sneak in, not for myself, but I'll be looking to buy if we're going in the right direction. I'll be looking to go in the direction of the trend with the follow-throughs, potentially looking to trade the retraces as well, as always. So really, the week ahead is going to be pretty numb as far as news is concerned. We've got a lot of FOMC members speaking throughout the week. I don't know what that's all about. Let's have a quick squeeze. Economy, Credit Suisse Asian Investment Conference. Maybe that's where they all are. So there's an investment conference in Hong Kong. I don't suspect that we'll learn too much more out of the Fed members than we already know, but you just never know. There's that potential vote on Friday. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? All right, so that's the week ahead. What's the market thinking thus far today? Let's take a squiz and see if we can draw any conclusions. Since the market opened, which was around about 12 hours ago, we've seen definitely pound weakness. There's no doubt about that. That might be a good thing for me because I have got a bullish aspect on the pound, both against the yen and the dollar. What else have we got? Everything's a little bit quieter. Aussie and Kiwi still doing okay, the commodity currencies. Euro's put on a little bit today, and apart from that, I was expecting to see a bit of dollar weakness, but I wouldn't say it's that weak. It's kind of in single digits most places, so not drawing too many conclusions from that. Let's see if we can dig deeper and go into the FinViz quotes. There's a little bit of green around about the place. Again, Euro, Kiwi, and Aussie. Aussie not so much at the moment. Oil's down. Pound's down. We can see that's pretty clear. We go to the performance. What have we got? Against the US dollar today, Kiwi is the strongest. Pound is the weakest. And as I said before, Euro and Aussie and Kiwi are doing okay. CAD is another commodity currency that's also doing well. But apart from that, we've got a weak yen, a weak Swissy, and a weak pound. So just bear those in mind as we go into the trading day. Speaking of which, let's take a look at some charts, shall we? I'm going to start with the Euro. And I did mention that, for those of you who come in a little bit later, we did find some trades late in the week, and unfortunately on Thursday the webinar crashed, or the YouTube connection crashed, and we were cast out. I don't know what that was all about, but we didn't get to tell you all the news. And typical, isn't it? The end of the week was quite strong in terms of tradability. And the Euro, well, I found this trade pretty much as I was expecting on Tuesday and Wednesday, but not necessarily as dramatic as it turned out on Friday. Actually ended on the 4-hour chart, and it turned out to be a pretty clear false break, if you like, when we broke not only these two lines, two horizontal lines, 113.60. You'll hear me talk about that a lot. 113.60. It's kind of the biggest level in this area of the chart. Why? I'll give you a brief overview of why that might be the case. We'll have to go to the monthly chart really to see it clearly. So after these big falls, this tumble here from the 140s down to almost parity here in 2014, we just could not climb back above this level. You can see how prominent that red line is. And we tried and tried and tried and tried and tried. A little bit of a false break there. Tried again. Eventually we smashed through it in 2017 when we're climbing out of what we thought was the disaster that what's that word? Brexit could deliver. So we put on a little bit of a spurt there and came back to 124 area. But now, after the horrors, I suppose, of 2018 we got immediately back to this level 113.60, and we've been hanging around there pretty much since September of last year. So no surprise that I talk about that level a lot. It is a very key level for the cross. So let's go back to today's chart, and there you will see that we have been hanging around this level for quite some time. Market's been trending downward without question, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, until, and we did anticipate this rally but couldn't get into it until that happened. But then we fell short of the resistance area and tumbled straight back down. It was then that this area became evidence of a false break. What I mean by a false break is one level gets smashed, then we get consolidation and straight back underneath. No consolidation there on the daily chart, but on the 4-hour chart, it is enough for me to say, okay, the market's now made up its mind after this period of time, and this rally here is unsustainable, and therefore we're going to come back underneath these key levels, the key levels being the monthly pivot and 113.60. You'll hear me often talk about breaks and retests, as you'll hear about Ash talk about, that he calls them back tests. Most traders use these, whether they're on a horizontal level or on a trend line. I use them on both, and on this occasion we got a false break of the monthly pivot of the 113.60 area, and there was also a trend line coming through here, if I recall. And you can see that we came really not back inside it, but it was enough for me to say, okay, that's going south. And so it did. I'm still in that trade, having taken 2 lots of profits before putting my stops to entry on Friday. Now, what from here is the question. It doesn't really matter if you weren't in those, what I did, but what I'm going to do is probably of more relevance and interest to you, I suppose. Well, I'm not going to do anything right now because I don't see any reason to do anything right now. I think if I'm absolutely honest with myself, I'm thinking we're now at the bottom of this range again and could possibly come off it, but we haven't really come to the exact bottom of that range. So I'm therefore thinking perhaps there's a little bit of a retracement here, which we're seeing, of course, on the big bear move. And where would we look for something to turn this market back in the direction of what I will call trend? Certainly is on a smaller time frame, but it's a retracement on this move, to be fair, on the bigger time frames. So I'll be looking for maybe a bounce off the daily pivot or the weekly pivot, which is sitting up here. Daily pivot would be better. Why? Because my stop is just above the weekly pivot at this point in time, so I don't really want that to be hit. So there's 2 ways to look at this. One is bouncing off the bottom of the range, and if that's the case, I'll be looking for a higher low in this vicinity after having hit the resistance area of the daily pivot, popping back underneath and giving me a higher low. That would really interest me on most occasions of going long here. And I'm not saying it won't this time, but there is that little bit of a question mark on, well, have we really been to the bottom of this range or have we not? The other thing to look at, of course, is you remember break and back test of an area. I've just been talking about that. We've also seen that down here, the break and back test, as Ash calls them. I call them retests. Same thing, but we have broken through the weekly pivot last week, granted, and retested in the same week, just about on the changeover. So there's that aspect to look at as well, and perhaps there is a short to be had here. I won't be taking that no matter what. If I am to trade short, it'll be from up here. Certainly won't be from here, because the risk trading into the bottom of that range, and indeed the low, is too high for me. So I'm undecided. I'm a little bit ambivalent, to be fair, as to what to do next, and I'll just let price tell me what that is to be. Can't lose on the trade here. We banked twice, as I said. Her stops are at entry, so it's a winner no matter what. And really, what happens from here is, I won't say irrelevant, but the next trade is probably the one I'm looking for now, not the one I'm currently in. That's what I'm trying to say, I suppose. So that was euro dollar, and similar, in fact, if not exactly the same, very, very close to that, was the Aussie, and we traded this one as well, exactly the same scenario, apart from the fact that the monthly pivot was a bit higher. But what we did do is we broke the daily pivot, we broke a resistance trend line, we came back underneath them, retested both, so break, back test, and false break. So again, enter at the bottom of this candle. I've only taken one lot of profit on this one, and I'm at no risk, and hopefully we can withstand a retracement back to significant levels. Again, daily pivot and weekly pivot are in play. This trend line's got to go now. It's been violated too many times, so we'll just pop that up to a more relevant area now. That's a little bit too far away to worry about today. This one, of course, is gone as well, but I've left it there because, well, it's actually not gone. It's still in play. If you recall what I've just shown you, actually, let's put that back for a second. You can see what a false break looks like. The break, the consolidation, was not really consolidation, but it's spending time above the break, back underneath it, retested. That's the entry signal. But isn't the very same thing happening, if you keep that one in your mind, with this lower level? Break, let's call it consolidate, back underneath, retest. So the question here is, am I prepared to trade that? Pretty much replica of what we saw at the higher level. Well, there's no need for me to trade it because I'm already in the trade, but would I consider scaling back in? Yes, I would. On this occasion, am I going to? Is the question, I suppose. Look, I don't really see that as a wise move at this point. A couple of reasons. We've got higher highs and lows, so we're actually trending long. And when I'm trending long, I'm okay to trade a retracement, but this is really in the bad part of the cycle. Really just doesn't make sense to me to go short here at this point. If we get a lower high, different story. So, a lower high at a significant level, like the daily pivot, like the weekly pivot, or maybe even a trend line if it appears up here, or maybe even this trend line, that makes sense to me. But it doesn't make sense to me to trade this short here, because we are at the bottom of a cycle, and that cycle is going in the opposite direction to where we would be wanting to trade if we traded that as a false break. Okay, so that's the reason I don't want to really go short here. The difference is that we weren't at the bottom of the cycle, in my humble opinion, because we hadn't reached support here when we traded this one, and we were coming off a resistance level, so potentially a lower high at that point as well, which it turned out to be. Okay, so there's the difference. So I'm not going to trade short from here. Would I trade short if this delivered me a nice setup? Look, I probably would not, because I'm already in this trade. But if I wasn't in this trade, I would consider it, but only at small risk. Why? Because there's a stronger level above, in my opinion. I think this level here is a stronger level, stronger resistance area than is today's daily pivot. So for that reason, don't get me wrong, today's daily pivot's got form all the way through here. But you know the old saying, the longer the stronger, and I think that's the case here with the weekly pivot. So I'll be looking at that area if there is to be a reversal of the current trend to trade it short, but not that keen, to be fair, from me. I'm happy to be in the short, happy not to be at risk anymore, that's for sure, but it wouldn't surprise me in the least if this were to take off again. and seek that trend line. So Aussie, I'm a little bit ambivalent on that one as well. Let's look at cable, where I'm not ambivalent at all in any way, shape, or form, because I've said all along, the last week or so anyway, that this is an extremely strong bull trend, in my humble opinion. And I know there's a lot of people wanting to talk this down, but I just can't see it technically. Really cannot. Big double bottom here. Higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. Now we've got another higher low. Am I expecting this to go short? Not on your Nelly. I'm really looking for an entry here to trade this long. So if I look at the 4-hour chart, how do I get in here? Well, I'd like to trade off confluence areas, of course, and I've got one sitting here. I've got the daily pivot and the weekly pivot sitting together, but what else do I have? Do I have a trend line that's been broken and retested? Let's see. Yeah, look, I kind of do, don't I? I kind of do. So we've broken here. We've come back and retested it. We've rejected it in concert with last week's weekly pivot. We've tried again to get above it, couldn't. We've gapped above it this morning, which I hate. That's the way it is. You've got to take what the market gives. But it has given me exactly what I've been just talking about and what I've traded on the Euro and the Aussie in reverse, hasn't it? Remember, we were coming down and we had break, what I call consolidate, back underneath retest. Well, now we've come down, consolidate, back above, retest, but it's not as crystal clear as I would like it to be. So, yeah, this is a curly one. Really is a curly one. And I'm just not 100% on this yet. Probably on the smaller time frames, I'll have a look at this area because it's a great place to bounce from, of course. So let's do that. Why not? We've got 5 minutes before the market opens, and I don't trade the first candle anyway, so there's no rush here for me. That line, of course, is irrelevant on this chart. So let's treat it as such and put it where it belongs. Okay, so that gives a bit more clarity. So remember, we're looking to trade long here, and we're looking for some form of confluence area to give us a reason to trade long, or an area from which to trade long. What do we got up here? Let's get rid of that. Yeah, we could use that high. And we finish up with something like that, which is cool. The market's respecting the line. Problem here is, of course, if I'm trading long, I don't like to trade long at resistance. So if there's a confluence here, that's not really up my alley. What I'd much prefer to see is some support confluence. And sadly, at this point in time, I'm lacking that. So I've really got to wait until maybe we get another low here. Maybe this becomes a low, and then we get another one. So giving us a line through here, that would suit me. And then I'd be looking for a price to break through here, consolidate back above, retest the confluence area, then look to trade long. As long as I'm not trading into the high of the day, which is up here somewhere, without profit in the bank, I'm more than happy with that. So that's probably going to be plan A on cable. I'd hate to miss it. I'd be really upset if I missed it going the other way, because I missed it coming down, and that was a little bit of a shame, as we spoke about last week. So that's where I'm at on cable. Bullish, but yeah, looking for an entry somewhere, and at the moment I just don't have what I need to see. Yeah, I can see it itching and I can see it bursting clear here, but unless I've got a reason, I won't be taking it. And I'm dwelling on it because I want to find one. Now, those of you who were in the show earlier last week would have remembered this, I hope, vividly in your minds and traded it. You recall that I was prepared to give it the benefit of any doubt here. Well, not so much. It was just in case. It was one of my just in case trades that I took short here, just in case this was ready to go, and it wasn't. And we drew down 1/4% there. But as soon as I saw this, then that was just, I got to get in here. I've got to get in. And fortunately, it set up on Thursday morning. And I just wouldn't leave the charts because I was just waiting for this to happen. And it gave me this bar here, which was back inside the range, lower high off these highs, bingo, entry there, stop loss here. Could have put your stop loss anywhere really. Up here probably was the safest bet, but this delivered and delivered big time. And I hope you managed to find that, guys, because I did say I was super keen to get short this cross when I saw this setup, and away she went, fortunately. If there's an unfortunate part, I didn't get it all, guys. I got out, so that's fine. Except, like I said, last week could have been absolute belter for me. A couple of, not mistakes. I don't believe I made any mistakes. I just wasn't in the right place at the right time on a couple of occasions, and that happens. From here, Euro yen, what do we do? Well, we have a look at the daily chart to start with, and we can see that this area has now been broken, retested, and it does look to be bearish. There's no question there. In my mind, have we started have we resumed the downtrend after this big retracement? I suppose you could look at it that way. In fact, you could look at it that way. So we've gone from, if we look at it on the weekly chart, that's exactly what it's going to look like. It's going to look like lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs. So if you put that into context, then we're talking perhaps down here somewhere. And that's probably where I'm at, to be fair. Can I get back in, is the question. Well, as always, after a big move like that, you're looking for one of two things, or maybe even both: consolidation and retracement. Certainly we're getting a little bit of consolidation, or had a little bit of consolidation over the last 1, 2, 3, 4 or 3 candles, and now looking to retrace to where? To a resistance level, one would think. So we've got a daily pivot, we've got a weekly pivot, we've got a monthly pivot, all of which are untested at this point. So where do we look to get in is the question. Weekly chart's telling me this cycle of lower highs, lower lows, lower highs has got probably a fair way to go in terms of where do we find an entry. So we could come right back here and still have a lower high. So that's the big question. Where does the retracement end? I've got a few thoughts. None of them are concrete, however. Let me put some horizontal data in there as well. That's the most recent. What's it look like here? You'd kind of go with that, wouldn't you? You'd kind of go with that level, I think, as being the most prominent in this area of the chart. I'm prepared to say that. So now we look for a confluence at that level, and what have we got? Well, it's kind of between the devil and the deep blue sea, in my opinion, because we've got a monthly pivot sitting up here, we've got a weekly pivot here and daily pivot here. So I don't have anything that I can help you with right now in terms of where this is going to retrace to. It could, of course, just continue to fall, no question. But from a tradability point of view, I've got to see it retrace to a significant level. Maybe I can pick a better one. I don't think I can. Let's go to the daily chart. See if we've got another level here. But to mine, that is the key. That level there. Let's put it on the weekly pivot, for instance, and see how close we can get to a decent level. So it's not too dusty either, is it, really? Maybe we can go with that one. So, support, resistance, miss, support. Okay, I can go with that. So there you go. I've made a decision, and the decision is that I don't really look for a short until we get to here, which is going to be the weekly pivot. So if you want that as a level, it is 124.85. Let's say 124.85. So until we get to there, I ain't going to look for shorts, but it's there I'll start looking for them. So again, start looking for confluences, and away we go. This is typical of what I do on a Monday, because I'm not that keen to trade. We don't have any big news events. We're coming off a weekend of hangover, if you like. The hangover not being due to drinking, being due to a very volatile week in the markets last week. So I don't really think that we're going to see a lot of action today, and that's the attitude that I'm taking. Certainly, if I see something, I'll trade it, but it's not really there for me right now. Now, I have been really keen to get back into Euro Pound. When I woke up on Friday morning, I was looking to trade a re-entry, retest of the monthly pivot short. Didn't happen. And of course, as the day progressed, Friday turned out to be a belter for anybody looking to trade Euro Pound short. Again, had it set up, would have just been another bit of icing on the cake for last week. Interestingly, this trend line that was broken on Wednesday, was it last week? Wednesday, has now been retested to the pip and gapped down this morning, come straight back to the pivots, and look what's happening. We're coming straight back off the pivots at the moment. How do we look to trade this now? Well, love lower highs, but I don't know that I love a lower high here. Why? What's happened quickly, for one thing, we haven't really had time to work our way back into the picture, if you like. It's just gone bang, bang. And that doesn't suit me. Really not that happy with that. And looking at it, similar to what I described on the Aussie, I think it was. Or was it the Euro? No, it was the Euro. Exactly the same. Where we haven't really hit the bottom of the range. We've had a big movement down, and we're looking to retrace back to a significant level. Same thing here. Sorry, we're on Euro Pound. Same thing here, but we have retraced to a significant level, but I just don't like it. It's too quick. And this break and retest is telling me that we've got a little bit of buying coming. Whether that buying stops here or not is, of course, the $65,000 question. And I don't know, to be fair. But it's not what I like to see. I'd like to see this happen over a longer period of time and maybe hit that level here somewhere. Then maybe the lower high gets me interested. But this quickly, I don't think so. It's not for me, especially with this retest here. I think there may be more in this. So what I'd therefore be looking for is, and it looks like that's happening as well, we're going to get a rejection of these pivots. And over a few hours, maybe, on the smaller time frames, let's go to that, the 30-minute chart, we look to this area here as a higher low. and then look to trade it back to the top of the range. But I'm only giving you potential scenarios. I'm not really predicting anything here. This could go south as a retest. Oh, sorry, as a retest, if you like, of this area here, or as a rejection, if you like, of the pivots. So it's quite feasible that that could go south. I'm just not convinced of it at this point. So therefore, I'm not going to trade it. But if I do see a significant higher low here, then that gives me the backup I need, I suppose, to play that break and retest of this trend line. So that's where I'm at. That would make sense to me. This kind of makes sense to me, but I just don't want to jump into this short right now. Which is interesting because I've been bursting to get back into it short. Of course, we've still got Brexit hanging over us. I'd rather not talk too much about Brexit because I don't know that much about it. Ash is the man for that. All I do is read and look at what I see on the headlines, but other than that, I'm completely over Brexit, so I'm not going to dwell on it. So yeah, a little bit ambivalent on Euro Pound shorter term. Longer term, I'd like to see it get back to here and then look for the lower high and look to trade it short. That's where I'm at with that one. Dollar yen, we were looking for a place to get short on this one last week as well, and again, bad timing. We couldn't find it. We may have found it around about an FOMC statement, but didn't, unfortunately. And that was pretty much where it began. Retraced and went again. We're going to see that continue. There'll be a lot of people thinking that is the case. And who am I to argue at this point? Again, we've got a clear break. And now we're looking for a retest of that area, right? So we've got a daily pivot. We've got a trend line that's been broken. So we're looking for a retest of that area. We'll take it on a 4-hour chart if it's there. This looks far better to me as it trade the retracement than it does trade the extension. Consolidation here is clear. We're coming back to this area. You'd be expecting a retest. I'd be expecting a retest, sorry. But we're starting to see lower lows, lower highs, lower lows. Again, I don't know that I trust the first resistance area. I think this area here is probably stronger. And therefore I'd be looking for this to take place. I'd be looking for the weekly pivot copper test or thereabouts. So I'm then talking false breaks. So again, the picture is not clear to me as to what happens next. It's pretty clear that we've broken short. I can't argue that point. I suppose if you look at this as the last line of support, which it appears to be, there's a little bit of noise through there, but I'm guessing we're down here somewhere if we're thinking short. Kind of looks that way, doesn't it? It kind of does. So I guess I've slightly got a bias, but I haven't got what I want to see. This might be a daily chart for tomorrow, and let me explain. So when I'm looking to trade breaks and back tests or breaks and retests, I like to do it in one movement down, one movement back trade. Not this kind of scenario. So we've got movement down, we've got consolidation. Now we're coming back to it. Yes, it'll be all important what happens here, no question. If we break back through it, then we've got a different ball game on our hands. In particular, if we broke back through and broke the weekly pivot and this level I've just put in the chart, probably the same level. So if we broke back above those levels, then we've probably got a different ball game on our hands, because it opens up the potential, not the certainty, of course, for this then to turn around and go, well, let's start putting in higher highs and higher lows. Of course, until that happens, you've got to be thinking short here. Sorry, I've got to be thinking short here. I don't presume to know what's in your head at all, but it's not as crystal clear taking short here as it may appear. I'm thinking this area for sure, and I don't think I'll be looking to do anything until that takes place. What I would look at on the smaller time frames is if we broke the daily pivot, for instance, today and retested it, put in a lower high here, sorry, a higher low here, that might be a trade even. It might be a trade back to this area. So I'd be okay with that. But overall, I think you'd have to concede that this is now looking bearish. I would concede that. In the smaller time frames, what do I see? Well, this is always where I have my fun. And the first thing I see here is a rectangle form. And that's awesome news, because that gives me great opportunities to trade. If I see price now, like I just said, get back into here and fail to go to weekly pivot, but come back inside the range and give me a lower high in this vicinity, pretty much where price is right now, that would give me a short for sure. That's definitely, I'd be looking to trade that. And because we're trending short now in what we've just been through, I'd be willing to leave something open here. Whereas normally on a 30-minute chart, if I'm trading from here, I'm looking to get out here, and I'd certainly close most of the position here, but I'd leave something open because we've now got a bearish bias. Hope that all makes sense. The other way, of course, there are many ways to look at it. The other way is if we break here and fail to come back under this area, then I adopt the reverse and I look to go in this direction. But I wouldn't be trading from here, say, to there, no question, because there's no reward on offer. Because I'm expecting what? I'm expecting it to turn around here. I'm expecting this to be resistance. So there's no way I'd be looking to trade through that area. So that's Dolly Yen. Yeah, I've got ideas, but at this point in time, again, I'm just not interested in trading. Let's get rid of this one. I'm on the 30-minute chart already on pound yen for whatever reason. Probably because I was just having a squeeze at earlier. Those of you who were in the shows last week will recall that we had a setup here. This was part one of the missed opportunities last week. Again, looking to play a false break. Trend line through here, broke, consolidate, back underneath, retest. I saw this, but didn't take the trade. And oh dear, what a miss that was. That produced off a very small risk, a very nice trade. So, why didn't I? Because I was trading straight into this support level. Then, what did we get? We got the retest. So on a bigger time frame, you'd be looking for an entry there. I'd be looking for an entry there. Remember, one up, one back. But it didn't happen. So it was missed. Oh dear. Doesn't make me happy, but I'm not unhappy because I chose not to. Simple as that. So what do we do now? Well, if you go back to the bigger picture, what have we got? We've got higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. So why would I be short here? We've hit a support trend line. Let me just fix that up. That's probably a daily trend line, that's why it's off. But we'll look at it on the 4 hour. So there's your trend line, and here's what's happening. Not a lot. In fact, a whole lot of nothing. We're really stuck here and consolidating substantially. Bigger picture, what do we got? We've got higher highs and higher lows? I don't think so. I think we've gone into that range, and therefore I'd be interested once again on a smaller time frame. But is it clear? Is the range clear to me? No, it's not. It's more of a pennant style formation than it is a rectangle. So am I willing to trade off here to here? Sure, but I need to have a setup, of course. It's respecting this trend line, no question. So you'd be looking for either a bounce or a break off it. I don't know that I'm keen to go short, but if I saw a setup here that gave me a long setup, then I think I'd be prepared to do that. Not easy pound yen at all. But bear in mind that this is still in bull mode, in my humble opinion. So, same as the pound, I just cannot think short here right now. Although I know the market is putting it under extreme pressure. There's a lot of rhetoric out there that suggests that the pound is on its way down again. Fine. Whatever. That's not what I'm trading. I'm trading what I see. So at the moment, I don't have anything other than respect for the pound. All of that good news last week has got to mean something. Everything on the data releases was good for the pound. So I just don't see any way I can go short here at the moment, and I'm not going to do that. What else have I got to look at? I'd be interested in. I'm always interested in a cross that's ranging. So, unfortunately, we're in dead set in the middle of the range. So it's going to be okay. Let's get up to here, and we'll look for evidence that we're going short. We'll get down to here, look for evidence that we're going long. So on the bigger picture, have we got a bias? Well, we traded this last week, didn't we? We traded this long from here, and we're out of the trade now. Look, I don't think I'd like to be entering, in fact, I know I wouldn't like to be entering long here at this point until this level breaks. So long's not on the cards. Is short on the cards? And if so, why? Have I got a reason to think short? Well, apart from the range that I'm in, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, higher high. But I could look for, and I will look for, let me do this. Where does this begin? Let's say here. Take your pick there where the top of that range is. Let's put it midstream about there somewhere. False break to the downside, false break to the downside, bang, 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 can't get through. Finally, we get through on a big bull bar. Maybe we've hit we'd be looking to hit a resistance level. That resistance level may well be there. Go a little bit wider. That looks reasonable to me. So let's say we're at 95.50. I'd be looking for short there for sure. But what is here at the top of my little rectangle to suggest that we can go short? Well, let's see. There's the top of my rectangle. We've had resistance in the past. we've had support in the past. More resistance here. Bang, bang, bang here, finally broke, false break, retest. Why not? What's wrong with that? Nothing at all. So that becomes then my area of interest. And that's exactly what I'll be looking for. I don't want to trade it to there because I don't have anything to trade from in terms of confluence. But once it gets there, I'll definitely be looking to trade it short. How will I do that? Well, I'll either look for a rejection of the high and then a lower high, or I'll look for a break become a false break and look for a retest where it comes back into the range. So that's on my mind, most definitely on the smaller time frames. Bigger picture, same thing. Look for a re-entry underneath the highs, top of the range. We've got the weekly pivot sitting there. That would be a pretty good trade to take that. That may be something for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. If we get back underneath here and retest the confluence, perfect. It's exactly the same level, weekly pivot and these highs here, which is the top of the range. So break back under here, retest. So I've got a bearish bias on Aussie CAD. Euro CAD. Equal high, equal low. Broke through this range here that we've been in for quite some time, retested it, rejected it. This looks bullish, without question for me. But do I want to go long from this level? Answer no, because I'm trading at resistance pretty much. Well, I'm a little bit away from it, so smaller time frames might interest me. But at this point, I have no reason to just jump into the market on that daily basis. 4-hour chart. What have we got? We've got not yeah, well, it's a false break, but no setup there, of course. So really, we've had a big bar on Friday that has almost been obliterated, as though it never happened. It hasn't been, so it's definitely the most dominant part of the chart at the moment, that big bear bar. So until that's taken out, it's a bit tough to be thinking long, to be fair. So if I then put, and this is a bit of a long bow I'm drawing here, I know. If I then put, let's call that there. This is a bit tight. There, we'll put it there. You can see the big gap here. Don't like that too much. I'm not a fan. But what I do see is the big bear bar and the market wending its way. This is the slower type motion that I look for all the time. So when I get back to here and see a resistance area and a rejection bar, maybe this is it. Don't like where it is, to be fair, because we're trading between the pivots, and that's not fun on a 4-hour chart for me. So I'd like to see this continue on its northerly journey, if you like, and find maybe this area and give me the lower high that I'm looking for. If I see a lower high here, I definitely look to trade it. Here I'm not so sure. Just not so sure. How significant is the level is always going to be the question. And if you look across here, that's price action. It's had a bit of work. There's no question, both as resistance and support. Ooh, it's not the worst. Not the worst at all, but I need to see something that excites me in terms of a candle or candle pattern, and really I just don't see that at the moment. Let's see this one on the hourly chart close in 33 minutes and look for a retest. That would convince me then that if price was to go short or come back to this area, then it will go short. The problem you've got is, as I said before, if you're trading between the pivots here, you really don't want a candle that's any bigger than maybe 10, 12 pips, because that's going to be your reward. So it's not such a great position. It really isn't to go short, in my humble opinion. So let's get it up here somewhere, and then look to trade it short. That's Euro CAD. Of course, if it breaks to the high side, no harm done. But at the moment, this is the most dominant feature on the chart, and the second feature you look for after that is something to back it up. So a lower high, away you go. I'll do a couple more. Then I'm going to have a look at the 30-minute charts. Then I'm going to have a break. Now, this one here, Euro Aussie, is kind of giving me what I want to see. Yet it's also giving me a case in the opposite direction. So what I'm looking at here is, let's do bigger picture first. Bigger picture is we've come off the top of this range. So we've had a false break here. We've had potentially a second false break, maybe even a third false break. And we've come back into the range, but we haven't as yet had a lower high. And that's what I'm always looking for. Yes, we've come back into the range. We've hit support. We've bounced off it. We're now straddling the weekly pivot. We've bounced off the weekly pivot, come down to the monthly pivot again. So it's playing a bit of ping pong in this area right now. I'd really like to see this up here to give me that lower high scenario, so I can trade it back inside this range or back to the bottom of the range. I actually do like this. This is looking good. If I can get this lower high, can I trade it to there is the big question. There's the 30-minute chart, and really I've got nothing here that makes sense in terms of a trade. Because I don't have a confluence area. I may have one. That way later in the day or the week. Let's use this high and bring it down here. Now we've got a confluence area. Either here, I don't want to hurry up if it's going to get there though, or maybe tomorrow even, when we come across the monthly pivot. That's on the resistance side. On the support side, if this were to become a low, then I'd have something through here, which would then give me a great place to trade from. So if that becomes a low and I maybe get back to the daily pivot, something of that nature, come back and break through the monthly pivot, then come back above it and retest it from above, that gives me a false break of both the monthly pivot and the trend line, and I can look to trade it long to where I think, I don't think, that's where I'm looking for the lower high from the daily chart. Okay, hope that all makes sense. So I'm looking to find a long in order to find an area to trade short. Why? Because I believe that we've hit this resistance enough times to say, hang on, let's give the support a chance. That's why. So that's what's in my mind. And Euro Aussie, I'll be looking for 30-minute trades to this facility, so the 160 area, and at the 160 area I'll be looking for shorts. Hope that's not too confusing. All right, we've got some 30-minute candles. Let's have a look, see through, and see if there's anything to be interested in. No confluence here, though we do have trend line. What do we want, guys? Untested daily pivot, untested weekly pivot. Can we go short? No. Got to wait. Can we trade long? Not really. Why? Because we're trending short, and there's no reason to think that this is going to reverse. There's no reversal pattern. Oh, maybe there's a little tweezer bottom. I'll rescind that on the 30-minute chart. There is a little tweezer bottom, and therefore this is potentially a lower high, but trading straight into an untested daily pivot is not for me, so the answer is no. 30-minute chart on Aussie dollar. So that's what you like to see. You like to see a significant level tested. Then you can look for price to react off it. Again, little tweezer bottom. Don't have a higher low here as yet. And am I willing to trade this long? Same scenario. If I've got a reversal pattern, little tweezer bottom, higher low, significant higher low. In other words, it's got to be a swing or look like a swing rather than this mess here. So it's got to look like something like that. Then maybe I can consider it. Can I consider short? Yeah, I'm at resistance. Why not? What have I got in terms of confluence? Nothing there really. Maybe it's higher. Kind of there, eh? All right, so if I'm looking for shorts, I've already got my break. I'd really like to get up to here, to be fair. But if I've got the break and a bit of consolidation, then I come back underneath here and retest either the daily pivot or the trend line, both preferably. Then I can look to trade it short. Not my greatest preference, because the retracement may or may not be strong enough. It is at a level that has been respected, there's no question. So there is a decent confluence existing here. So it's not the worst trade to take. And if it does set up that way, maybe I'll have a look at it. But it is Monday, and as I said, I'm really looking to position myself from a bias point of view rather than a trading point of view right now. We all know what I'm looking for there on pound US dollar. So I won't be, there's no trade yet. Again, break, confluence, back above, away you go. Euro yen, same thing, got to look for that retracement. 30-minute charts at this point is looking very much like it wants to seek this area, and that's fine. Could actually have traded this here earlier this morning. Let me explain. Reversal pattern, bullish engulfing bar, higher low, reversal bar, or potential reversal bar. I'd call it a reversal bar. Some people may. There may be another opportunity if this comes back down here and presents again with another higher low. In particular, if it's an equal, that would be good. That would then signal an opportunity to go long here. So keep your eye on that. Don't want to trade into the high of the day without profit in the bank, however. That's a rule of mine. Euro pound, we've spoken about this as well, and there's no trade for me at the moment. Dollar yen, this is looking interesting. Let's get above here, hit the bottom of this daily trend line, which has been broken, or back up to here. That's probably the preference area, isn't it? But if I see this breakout here and come back, give me the lower high, I will look to trade that short. There's nothing there. I know I'm repeating myself a lot. We're actually looking for a setup, aren't we? And I'm not finding any. Yeah, there's kind of one there. It's a little bit late to think about trading that, to be fair. Was I looking to trade this long? What is it, pound yen? Let me refresh my memory. Oh yeah, we're still getting higher highs and higher lows, right? So yes. 25 pips into 29 pips. There's a one-to-one available there. Into the high of the day. I'm looking for something that's tradable. It's kind of there, but this needs to get away from here now, because the one thing I don't do is jump in at market. But there's definitely an acceleration point here. If you are thinking long here, as I am, maybe I spent too much time talking there. I'm not going to enter the market here. If I pull back, then I may. but I'm not going to enter the market right now. I'll come back to it. Aussie CAD. Okay, that's that second little consolidation rectangle that we found, and I'm looking for the top of it and then trade off the top of it or as a false break. Nothing there at the moment. Euro CAD, middle of nowhere, not for me. Euro Aussie, again, we're potentially looking to trade this long to that area that we want to come short from. Let me get rid of that. It makes a mess, doesn't it? And we're at a good spot, but we haven't got what we want. Again, break, false break, back above, retests, long. That's all I'm looking to do. And I didn't really want to have a look at it anymore. So guys, no trades, and that's no surprise. As I said, given it's Monday, but I need to look at what was the cross? Euro pound yen. Pound yen, okay. So this is doing what I want it to do now. So I'm looking for, pardon me, this to become a bear bar and maybe close in this area somewhere. Had I seen this earlier, I may well have placed a long at very small risk because it is Monday. I'm not a Monday trader. Look, it's still there, but again, I just don't want to jump into the market when we're at the level. No, let me place it now. Well, I've got time. Okay, so I want to go long at 140, 145.32. Look, I only want half a lot on this. Too much on a Monday. It's a buy stop, and it is at, what did I say, 145.32. And we'll put our stops over here at 145.09. And we will place the order. Oh, that's 09. Dope. So I can't place the order right now. Get back down there. Go on. I don't think it'll accept my order. At this point, I've got to come back another few pips. Go on, back you come. You guys talk to the charts too. Oh, don't go. Don't do it. Come on. Retrace. Not going to, is it? Sorry, guys, I'm being quiet because I'm just waiting for this to retrace. Anyway, if you manage to get into this, I would take a profit here and I would take profit here, and I'd close the trade here. If I get the opportunity and we get a retracement, then I will go into it. Guys, very quiet in the room, by the way. Any questions? Any observations over the weekend? Or are you looking at doing anything? Don't talk to me about stocks, because I'm not a stock person. That's Ash's job. Or anything outside currency pairs is probably not my area of expertise. But anything to do with the currency market, I'm happy to share what I think. Come on down a bit further. Really want to come back to here. You might wonder why I do this, and if there is a method in my madness. Well, yes, there is, and it's based on. That'll do. Okay, it's based on past experience. Bad normally. That if I just jump in at the market when it's gone through my entry, I generally get smashed. So that's the reason. Where do I see Aussie Kiwi going? Yeah, it's getting close to parity, isn't it? Again. Let me have a look. I'll just get my eye on this chart on my other screen. Just hang on, I'll set that up just now. Okay, got it. All right, so let me put my take profit level in first ones there. Okay, Aussie Kiwi. Certainly looks bearish, mate, doesn't it? Double bottom forming. Let me go a bit tighter on that one. It's got a ways to go, isn't it? Which would take it down to 101-ish. 101.30, so maybe 101. Maybe they want to have another look at that, Christo. I couldn't really say that they're not going to do that. That looks to be a reasonable conclusion to make. Of course, that level is beyond there. That's the one you got to worry about. 102.25. So I'd be okay if I was in the short now. I'd be okay to there. There's no question. I'd look to take profit there though. Can't see it going long anytime soon, mate. To be fair, there's no reason to think that. We've got lower highs, lower lows. I think I'd be more than comfortable to be riding this down to 102.25. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much all I see at the moment. Is there a potential for reversal? Always, but is there a reason to think it's coming? No. That's not a bit bullish engulfing bar for mine. So I'd be expecting a retracement, certainly. Back to here, maybe. Back to here, maybe. What's the strongest level on the chart? That's what I'm always looking for, the strongest level on the chart. And I don't really see one because we've been down here for a while. Mate, I'm thinking weekly pivot. But, you know, if you're not in, don't be discouraged by what you see on the daily pivot. A reversal, a rejection here is certainly on an intraday basis. There's resistance and support that we've just come back to, and it's pretty much in the daily pivot area. So there'll be plenty of people looking to trade that, I would have thought. Now, on the smaller time frame, the only consideration, I suppose, is that you've got this reversal situation and a higher low. But it's only as good for mine as the previous resistance level, which is probably a little bit higher if it breaks through here. But this is the resistance level. So daily pivot might be the go. Could well be the go. Keep your eye on it, mate. I wouldn't be averse to taking a short here. It's got to set up, of course. There's got to be a confluence for me. That may come in the form of nothing there really keen on. False break. You're getting a fair way away from the daily pivot then, so that's not really what you want to see. And I don't see anything else in terms of an area from which to trade, unless you get a reversal bar here. It depends on your strategy, of course. But for me, I like to trade at confluence areas, and I like to trade breaks and retests, and I like to trade candle patterns, and I don't have any of that there right now. So for me, there's really not an entry, but a reversal bar here certainly could be traded, I believe. So don't know if that helps you at all, but that's pretty much as I see it at the moment, mate. What's the reason why you measure the first downward slope and then measure how much more to go down? Is there correlation between the distances? Always. The market is kind of full of people who actually want to measure their profits by support and resistance. And just hang on a second, I'm having an issue here. There it is. Okay. So if you have a look at the moves, Ash believes in this a lot, and he goes through it a lot too. Where was I measuring it on the 4-hour chart, maybe? On the weekly chart, maybe. That would make sense to me. So this move down here, is that the one I measured? Yeah, it probably was. Yeah, it was. So those who got in here traded it down to support, maybe to here, and then a few may have hung on a little bit. So let's call it 500 pips, where they've got out at a support level, obvious support level, right? So then they've got back in at, let's say, a resistance level, around about that monthly pivot area, but certainly the previous support level. So break the support back and retest it. It's very, very, very common for that to happen. And that's what's happened here. And then the next move is likely to be similar to the previous move, unless there's a massive support level in the way. And that's what you're looking for. So entry here, there is a massive support level in the way, this one here, and that's why you'd probably look to scale out at that time. Otherwise, you're looking, at 500 pips again, which is not far from that level, to be fair. So that's the kind of thing you'd be looking at. Then you'd be looking for that to be retested. It's very, very common way to trade, if you like. I'm not a trend trader, so I actually don't trade like that. But what I prefer to do is always find an area where we're consolidating and trade within that consolidation. So top to bottom, bottom to top. So on the smaller time frames is where I kind of spend most of my time. And when I see, rectangles starting to form, that's when I start to get interested. I don't see a rectangle forming here at the moment, but that's kind of where I live, in rectangle land, or in channel land, to be fair. And I probably do see a channel going through there. So when I start to see that, I've got top, bottom, back to the top. If we get a false break there, then I'm happy to trade short. So that tells me then that this breakout of this channel, and therefore what I call a range, it's certainly not a horizontal range, but we're going top to bottom all the time. So that's what I'm looking for. So if we come back in here and retest it, or get the lower high, that's when I'll look to trade short. Does that all make sense? Hope so. It does to me anyway. Okay, have we been triggered into this trade? No, not quite. Okay, so what else have I got, guys? Not much, I don't think. I think I've expounded just about everything I need to do today. I'm pretty set in my bias for the week, and I think I'll just carry that forward into tomorrow and look for some setups, guys. If it's anything like last week, all the action came at the end of the week, and that's not unusual for me either. So I'll be looking for that to repeat, perhaps. Okay, looks like we might be in this trade, and obviously looking for acceleration through to that blue line in the first place, where we'll take profit, and thereafter we will again look to take profit here and close at the weekly pivot if we're fortunate. If we look like reversing here at any stage, it is at that point where I'll consider doing a scale out or something like that, because if we're not going to get the acceleration here, then the chances are we're going to bounce off this trend line, right? So if we get the acceleration that we're getting now, which is exactly what we're looking for, we want to close some of this position, and we'll do that. We might close half of this actually, if we get the opportunity. So when they can't get to that level of resistance, the first level of resistance, that's when I start to think, okay, we might be wrong here. And if we retrace back below this level, I'd close some of the position, because I may well be wrong. So I'll hang in here for a couple of minutes, guys, before I go. Cool, Christo. Happy it makes sense, mate. Okay, get up there. Ready, set, go. Isn't it the energy, has it? Okay, guys, I'm not going to lose on this, so I'm going to move my stop to entry now. If this little surge doesn't hit that level, I'll move my stop to entry. Okay. Didn't, so what I'll do is I'll modify. Can I modify? Why is it not doing it? There we go. So where was my entry? It was at, should tell me there, shouldn't it? It was at 145.32. So that's where I want my stop. 145.32 and modify. Right, so our stop has moved to entry. So what I've really done there is I've just ensured I'm not going to lose on the trade. It hasn't done what I've wanted it to do, which is accelerate to the level quickly. It's tried, and it's tried 2 or 3 times, and it's at that point I think, well, maybe I'm wrong here. If it goes there now, happy days. I'll put my stop back to where I'd like it to be. But if it doesn't go to that level, chances are I'm wrong and it's going to bounce off this and take me out. So I'm happy with that. So it's having another crack now. All right, we'll see if we can get back in here and close part of this position. Why is it not letting me do that? It's pretty ordinary. Close. 0.25. And we're there. Okay. Let's do that. Right, so we've closed half of the position and we made, how many pips did we make? So we've made 14 pips. We'll now move our stops 14 pips from entry, giving it time to breathe or a bit of space to breathe. So 32 will be 18, won't it? So we'll go stop loss, stop loss, modify to 145.18. Okay. Right, now what I've effectively done now, guys, is I'm in a free trade, so I can't lose on this. It's like there's news going on here at the moment. That can't be right, can it? Oh, calendar. Monday, 9 o'clock, news. It's only orange news. Oh well, it might help us. It might not, but it might help us. So far, reasonable. Okay, because there's news, I'm actually now going to trail my stop on a 15-minute bar. I'm going to take another 0.25% off here at monthly pivot, right? So close 0.13. As soon as I hit that monthly pivot, I may already have hit that monthly pivot, may not. Go on, a little bit further. Maybe, maybe not. I'll hang in here for a bit, guys, and if it hits the monthly pivot, I'll take this another 0.25% off, and then I'll just leave it go. Because there's news, it actually may turn this into a bit of a trend. So what I'll do is take that other 0.25% off here at this level, then I'll move my stops to entry, and I'll remove my target. Well, I haven't got a target, so I'll just won't have a target, and I'll let this run then. So worst thing that can happen is I'll keep what I've banked twice if my amended stop gets hit. But it looks like I might have missed this opportunity. Maybe not. We'll see. Guys, this could take half an hour. So I'm actually going to close, unless you've got any questions, because I've got another show coming up in 25 minutes, and I wouldn't mind having just a little bit of a breather. You know what I'm going to do? If it hits this monthly pivot, or even if it gets to the high it's already achieved, I'll close another 1/4%, and that's it. I'll move my stocks to entry at that point, which was up here, and I'll let the rest run. Is that all clear? Should be all clear. Okay. So we may have a decent start to the week, although I don't trade much on Mondays. If they're there, they're there. So you've just got to take a little bit of money in there. Okay, Christo, thanks, mate. I will go and take my break. Nothing more to say. Have a good week, guys. We'll be back tomorrow. Ash will be back in tomorrow. He's flying today, and we'll look forward to catching up on all things Brexit and what's been happening in Singapore. Have a good one, guys. We'll catch you tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.